Oh boy, exactly how this episode ended is exactly how I felt watching this episode. What the fuck? So this second episode, titled Marital Feats of the Comanche Horsemanship of Watchmen, Season 1, Episode 2, picks up right where Episode 1 left off, where the Chief of Police, Chief Judd, was hung from a tree. In this review, I will be talking spoilers, so if you have not seen Episode 2 of Watchmen, Marital Feats from the Comanche Horsemanship, please go back and watch it and then come back and watch this. So this episode picks up right where the last one left off, and it leads you in with another flashback from Will, who's played by Louis Gossett Jr.'s character's past, and you basically find out that his father fought in World War II. And this is the thing that I like about this show. Not only is it trying to entertain you, but it's also trying to teach you a bit of American history, in that they show these German soldiers basically tried to co-opt the black American soldiers by sending them a letter like, hey, why are you fighting for this American war against us when you go back to America, they try to lynch you. You don't even have the right to vote. Here in Germany, you don't have that problem. Now granted, the Nazis are very notoriously racist, but it was a smart ploy to try to get black soldiers on their side. And this is something that they actually did in real life. So again, peppering in things that happen in the real world while trying to entertain you in this Watchmen world. I love that. And so you jump back to the present, and Regina King's Angela character, she takes Will to her secret hideout and basically starts interrogating him. And at first I was getting kind of scared because I thought that she was going to start beating up on the old man. And I was like, no, elder abuse, don't do that, because we've seen that Sister Knight is brutal. She doesn't give a damn, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to get whatever information that she needs. So I thought that's what she was gonna do against this old man, but thankfully she didn't go that route. And he's giving her these type of hints, basically saying who she is. And there's also this long dialogue about the fact that he's pretending to be Dr. Manhattan. And they're like, and this is something I didn't know, they're like, no, Dr. Manhattan doesn't have the ability to look human. And that's also something that comes up later on in the episode. And I'm like, is this a form of Chekhov's gun? Because they're bringing this up way too much. Is this their way of saying to the audience that at some point Dr. Manhattan's gonna show up in the show, but to keep the budget low, they're gonna have him look human as opposed to the irradiated blue form? I don't know, because why keep bringing it up? And so while in the middle of interrogating him, she gets a phone call from the rest of her police squad that they found Chief Judd hung. And so she heads there. And again, a word I keep using for the show is interesting, because I find it very interesting that you learn that reporters in this world have these kind of like moth wings that they use to almost be like drones overhead to try to get the scoop of what was happening with Officer Judd. And I just find it very interesting that they have this level of technology, but yet they don't have cell phones or the internet. And this show continues to drop Easter eggs from the original comic, in that they mention that Keene, which I'm assuming is either the original Keene from the comic or maybe his descendant, a guy named Keene is running for president. And if you don't know the original comic, the Keene Act was the legislation that outlawed all mass vigilantes and all superheroes. And that's why characters like Silk Spectre, Night Owl, Comedian, Hooded Justice, Captain Metropolis, Dollar Bill, Mothman, and others had to go into retirement because of the Keene Act. Also during this episode, you get to see an origin of the children that Angela and her husband have in this world. You get to see the father show up for visitation rights, and I was like, hey, look, it's Jim Beaver, who plays Bobby Singer on Supernatural. And he brings up Redfordations, and that's also an ongoing theme within this episode. Like, you get to see protests against the Redfordations, basically saying, oh, black people, you got an apology for the government, now you want a handout. And truth of the matter is, that's a conversation that's even being had today, because reparations for slavery and Jim Crow is a topic that's going on in today's presidential campaign, and people are saying the same thing. Oh, you just want a handout. So it's all very realistic in that aspect. So eventually Angela goes to Chief Judd's house under the guise of wanting to offer her condolences to his wife because of some of the riddles that Will dropped when she captured him, basically saying that Chief Judd had a lot of skeletons in his closet. She goes to investigate, and again, throwing out the Easter egg, she pulls out the goggles that the second Night Owl made in the original comic book, which I think they had in the movie as well, but I don't remember. And that basically gives you X-ray vision. And you learn through her investigation that Chief Judd is a racist KKK Klan member. I was like, oh, come on, not Chief Judd. I liked him. I thought at a certain point it was going to be revealed that he was part of the 7th Cavalry, because that's usually what ends up happening in these shows or movies. Like the chief of police, the one that you think is on your side, ends up being on the other side. But because of the way the first episode ended, I was like, oh, I guess he's actually one of the good guys. But the way this is looking, it turns out, no, he's not actually one of the good guys. And so that goes to a theory that I have jumping to the flashback, where you actually got to see what happened with Angela and a lot of the other police officers during what's called the White Night Raid, which is why cops end up wearing masks and cover their identities now, and where the 7th Cavalry basically broke into Angela's house and shot her in the stomach. I have a feeling now, based on what we saw, that it was Chief Judd that that was probably behind that. Or maybe he was the one wearing the Rorschach mask and shot her in the stomach, which would be a huge betrayal once she finds that out, if my theory turns out to be true. But I don't know. We'll see. And then in this episode, they also show you an episode of American Hero Story, which is basically more or less a televised version of the origin of the Minutemen, specifically Hooded Justice. And I remember I mentioned in my last video that I had a theory that it's going to turn out that Will is Hooded Justice, the very first masked vigilante in this world. And after watching that little documentary that showed up on this episode, I was like, maybe not. I don't know. I have more questions, but I'm still here for it. And speaking of Will, like, you do find out he's definitely a badass and he has a story to tell, because you find out that when Angela first captured him, she handcuffed him to his wheelchair. And when she went back to check on him, he not only got out of the wheelchair, but he left the compound and went to go get eggs to make some food. And even Angela was shocked by that. Like, you left and you came back? And he's like, yeah, because I'm not done talking to you. Angela finds out that he's actually her grandfather. And that surprised me. Like, I knew there was going to be some type of connection between Angela and Will. I didn't think they were going to be related. I thought maybe, you know, going back to the first episode with the flashback with Will and the baby, and as far as we know, that baby wasn't related to him. I thought maybe the baby was going to end up being maybe Angela's mother or grandmother that Will watched over, and he's watched over that family over the generations, and he has friends in high places, because when Angela tried to arrest him at the end, this massive ship came out of nowhere and basically took the whole car with Will in it, and I was just like, what the fuck? Again, I have a whole lot of questions, because who is Will? That's what I want to know. And who is he connected to? Is he actually Hooded Justice, or is he a protege of Hooded Justice? Who is he? But the icing on the cake for this episode was what happened at the very end with Jeremy Irons' character Adrian Veidt. Which, side note, I didn't know the guy that's playing Mr. Phillips is actually Tom Mison, who played Ichabod Crane from Sleepy Hollow. I'm glad to see him as something else, because I really loved that first season of Sleepy Hollow, but then it just went to hell after that. Kind of like the first season of Heroes. First season of Heroes was great, but then after that, it just... I don't know what happened to it. So you get to see his two servants, Mr. Phillips and Mrs. Crenshaw, act out the play that he wrote in the last episode, The Watchmaker's Son. And based on the title of that, you knew it had to do something with Dr. Manhattan, because he is a watchmaker's son. And it's basically a play of Dr. Manhattan's origins. And there's this one part where Mr. Phillips gets burned in fire. And I was like, wait, is he really on fire? Like, no, there's no way he's really on fire. And then you see him standing in the blue makeup. I was like, oh, okay, it's a little stage trickery. And no, it turns out that there's some weirdness going on where Adrian Veidt has a whole bunch of clones of these two men and women, and they all have different names. And of course, when one of the guys was playing as Dr. Manhattan, and you know Dr. Manhattan is always naked, the first thing they showed was penis. When I saw that, I automatically thought to an episode of Buffy where Xander said something along the lines of, nothing can defeat the power of the penis. And you know, Dr. Manhattan has all the power, and he has his penis out. Whatever, that's just where my thought process went. But yeah, I am hella confused by that whole thing. Like, what exactly is Adrian Veidt doing, and what is he doing with all those clones specifically? I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I really love the fact that they are teaching American history while also providing a very entertaining show at that, and just how black-centric this show is, because more times than not, especially in the comic book genre, everything is so white-centered, and specifically white male-centered. I think I mentioned this in my Raising Dion review. All we really have are Black Lightning, and then we got Raising Dion, and now I guess we got Watchmen. So that's 3 shows out of how many shows that are currently on television and how many shows that have existed throughout superhero television history period. And we also had Luke Cage. I can't forget Luke Cage, but that ended up getting canceled, so does that even really count anymore? So that's something that I really enjoy about this show. So yeah, I would still say this episode is a blockbuster. So have you seen Watchmen episode 2? What did you think about it? Do you like episode 1 better or episode 2? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can't hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is your first time watching one of my videos, first of all, welcome. And check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.